Meera Sharma, the glamorous Indian model, lured 27 young men into a deadly game of desire, leaving a trail of mystery and horror. Meera was a young woman whose beauty and charm seemed almost otherworldly. From a small town in India, she had risen quickly through the world of modeling, catching the eye of photographers, designers, and socialites alike. Her face appeared on magazine covers, billboards, and social media pages, drawing thousands of followers who admired her elegance and poise. At every event, she carried herself with confidence, always dressed in the latest fashion, always smiling, always seeming untouchable. People around her described her as ambitious, fearless, and magnetic, someone who could light up a room just by walking into it. But behind the glamour and flashing cameras, Meera's life was far from ordinary. She craved excitement, thrills that went beyond the controlled world of photo shoots and fashion shows. Late at night, she would slip away from her carefully curated public life and attend private parties that were whispered about in elite circles. These were not just gatherings for fun. They were filled with secrecy, indulgence, and a sense of danger that only Meera seemed to embrace fully. The more attention she received, the more her appetite for risk grew. She began to surround herself with young men who were willing to do anything for her approval. Admirers, influencers, and wealthy youths fell under her spell, drawn to her beauty but unaware of the darkness that simmered beneath her charming exterior. Her rise to fame was meteoric, but the pressures of public life and the boredom of constant admiration left her restless. She was not content with just being admired. She wanted control, dominance, and a thrill that could never be satisfied by simple fame. The glittering world around her hid a shadow that no one suspected, a world that would soon take a deadly turn, leaving a trail of mystery and horror behind her name. As Meera's fame grew, so did her access to a world few could imagine. She began receiving invitations to private gatherings, secret events where the rich and powerful indulged in pleasures far from public scrutiny. These parties were held in luxury villas, penthouses, and hidden clubs, places where cameras were forbidden and the rules of the outside world did not apply. Alcohol flowed freely, expensive drugs circulated without fear, and every indulgence imaginable was available to those who could pay or please the hosts. Meera quickly became the center of attention at these gatherings. Her beauty and charm captivated everyone in the room, and young men vied for her gaze, desperate to win her approval. At first, she enjoyed the admiration innocently, laughing and dancing, seemingly lost in the thrill of the moment. But gradually, her presence began to carry power beyond mere attraction. She realized that these parties gave her something more than pleasure. They gave her influence over those who were willing to risk everything just to be near her. It wasn't long before Meera began orchestrating games of attention and desire, subtle ways to test the devotion of her admirers. Some young men were willing to go to extreme lengths, trusting her completely, believing they were part of an exclusive world of excitement and luxury. Yet hidden beneath the glamour and the laughter was a creeping darkness. Each party carried a risk that few could see coming, and those who underestimated Meera or failed to meet her expectations would face consequences far beyond embarrassment or rejection. What began as thrill-seeking soon became a dangerous game. Meera's allure was magnetic, but it masked a cunning mind, one that could manipulate desire and risk with deadly precision. The secret parties were no longer just places of indulgence. They were the beginning of a path that would lead to shocking and tragic outcomes. What started as harmless thrill-seeking soon transformed into something far more sinister. Meera's admirers, young men drawn to her charm and beauty, began to disappear under mysterious circumstances. At first, their deaths were written off as accidents, overdoses, or sudden medical emergencies. No one suspected that these tragedies were connected, and Meera's name remained untouched by suspicion. The pattern, however, was chilling. Each victim had crossed paths with her at one of her secret parties, and each encounter followed a similar sequence: attention, admiration, obsession, and ultimately, death. Meera's fascination with danger grew alongside her control over those around her. She learned how to manipulate the desires and fears of her admirers, enticing them into risky situations that left them vulnerable. Some were drawn to the thrill of partying with her. Others were lured into private encounters where the boundaries of pleasure and danger blurred. She seemed untouchable, a figure of beauty and power who could bend reality around her, masking the dark consequences of her actions. The world outside remained unaware of the deadly game unfolding behind closed doors. Friends, colleagues, and social media followers continued to see Meera as the rising star, glamorous and untouchable. Yet beneath that image, a growing trail of death cast a shadow over her glamorous lifestyle. The thrill that once exhilarated her became an addiction, and the line between power and murder blurred with every victim. No one could have predicted the scale of the tragedy that Meera's secret life would unleash. The deaths, mysterious at first, were the beginning of a chain of events that would shock the nation. What was once a game of excitement had become a deadly obsession, and the path ahead promised horrors that no one, not even Meera herself, could fully control. As the number of mysterious deaths grew, the authorities could no longer ignore the unsettling pattern. 27 young men had died under circumstances that seemed accidental or natural, but the similarities between the cases could not be dismissed. Each had been seen with Meera shortly before their deaths, and connections began to emerge through social media posts, party invitations, and CCTV footage. Investigators realized that the glamour surrounding her was masking something far darker, and the case quickly escalated into one of the most baffling and chilling investigations in recent memory. Detectives began digging into Meera's private life, discovering the secret world she inhabited. The underground parties, once thought to be harmless indulgences, were revealed to be dangerous arenas where the rich and young risked everything for attention and pleasure. Every invitation she received, every social gathering she attended, left a trail of evidence pointing toward her. Slowly, the authorities began to see the pattern of manipulation and obsession that connected the victims. The more investigators uncovered, the more chilling the truth became. Meera had mastered the art of control, making her admirers believe they were safe, that their admiration and devotion would protect them. Instead, it led them into situations where even the smallest misstep could prove fatal. The young men had been drawn to her beauty and power, unaware that their trust would be exploited in deadly ways. Public fascination with the case intensified as news outlets reported on the bizarre string of deaths. Society struggled to reconcile the image of a glamorous model with the grim reality of the investigation. Meera, once celebrated for her charm and allure, was now the center of a growing storm, a figure whose deadly influence over her admirers was slowly coming to light. As the investigation unfolded, the full extent of Meera's dark vice began to emerge. Authorities discovered that her deadly influence was not accidental but meticulously planned. She had learned how to manipulate her admirers psychologically, understanding their desires, weaknesses, and fears. With subtle gestures, seductive charm, and carefully timed attention, she could control their behavior without them realizing it. Those who fell completely under her spell became willing participants in her dangerous games, trusting her implicitly and ignoring any hint of danger. For Meera, the thrill was intoxicating. Each admirer became a challenge, a puzzle to bend to her will. She used drugs and carefully orchestrated situations to test loyalty and obedience, observing how far someone would go to satisfy her whims. Many underestimated her, assuming that beauty and youth could not harbor malice. But beneath her glamorous exterior, she had cultivated a mind capable of calculated cruelty, turning desire into a weapon. The deaths of her admirers were deliberate, yet she left no obvious trace, making them appear as accidents or overdoses. Medical reports, toxicology results, and forensic analysis were all manipulated or misleading, allowing her to evade suspicion for a long time. This combination of charm, intelligence, and cold calculation made her almost untouchable, creating a chilling contrast between her public persona and the darkness she harbored. The revelation of her methods shocked investigators and the public alike. Meera's influence was no longer limited to admiration and attraction. It had become a deadly force. The glamorous parties, the attention, the thrill of control had all been masks for a game where life and death were her playthings. Every step she took left a trail of deception, manipulation, and tragedy, proving that beneath beauty, power, and charm, a lethal darkness had been growing unnoticed. The case took a dramatic turn when one of Meera's admirers narrowly escaped what could have been a fatal encounter. For the first time, investigators received a direct account of the dangerous world she had created. The survivor described in chilling detail how Meera carefully orchestrated situations to test loyalty, manipulate emotions, and push boundaries. He revealed how her charm concealed the deadly trap, making every admirer believe they were part of an exclusive, thrilling circle while unknowingly walking toward danger. With this testimony, detectives began to reconstruct the events leading up to each mysterious death. Forensic evidence that had once seemed inconclusive suddenly gained new meaning. Patterns of behavior, drug use, and private meetings all pointed toward Meera as the central figure in a series of calculated tragedies. The trail of manipulation, control, and psychological games became undeniable. What had initially seemed like isolated incidents now revealed a deliberate strategy, exposing the deadly obsession that Meera had cultivated over time. The nation watched in shock as the story unfolded, unable to reconcile the glamorous image of the model with the horrific reality of her actions. Social media posts, party invitations, and videos that had once celebrated her life were now scrutinized for hidden clues. Each revelation added a layer of complexity to the case, showing how Meera had skillfully disguised her deadly influence under a veil of beauty and charm. Investigators realized that without the survivor's courage, the truth might never have surfaced. His account was the key that unlocked the hidden network of manipulation and death, finally exposing the scale of Meera's crimes. The case was no longer a series of unexplained deaths. It was a portrait of a lethal obsession, a dark vice that had claimed far more than anyone had imagined. The arrest of Meera sent shockwaves across the country. Authorities raided a luxury hotel where she had been planning yet another gathering, one that could have ended in tragedy. Surveillance footage, forensic evidence, and the survivor's testimony all pointed to her as the mastermind behind the deaths of 27 young men. She was taken into custody with a calm, composed demeanor, almost as if she had been expecting it. Her unshakable poise only deepened the nation's fascination and horror, revealing the chilling contrast between her public image and the reality of her actions. The evidence against her was overwhelming. Investigators detailed how she had manipulated each victim, luring them into risky situations with drugs, psychological games, and subtle threats. Autopsy reports, toxicology results, and social media interactions painted a grim picture. A young woman whose beauty masked a calculated and cold-blooded obsession. Even those closest to her in the glamorous world of modeling were shocked to learn that beneath her charm lay a mind capable of orchestrating death. The media frenzy was unprecedented. News outlets broadcast the story across television, newspapers, and social media platforms, exposing Meera's dark secret to millions. Admirers who had once idolized her were left questioning everything they thought they knew about fame, beauty, and trust. Her rise to stardom, once celebrated, was now seen as the facade of a deadly game that had consumed lives and left families grieving. Even in custody, Meera remained enigmatic. Investigators struggled to understand the motives behind her actions, questioning how someone so young and beautiful could harbor such a lethal obsession. The arrest marked a turning point, but it also left a lingering sense of unease. The glamour, the parties, and the charm were gone, replaced by the stark reality of manipulation, control, and the devastating consequences of her dark vice. The aftermath of Meera's arrest left the nation in shock and mourning. Families of the 27 young men struggled to comprehend how someone so admired and celebrated could be responsible for such horror. The underground party scene, once a hidden world of indulgence and secrecy, faced scrutiny like never before. Authorities closed clubs, investigated hosts, and warned the public about the dangers that had lurked behind the glamour for so long. Meera's story became a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder that beauty and power could conceal the darkest of secrets. People who had once followed her on social media, attended her events, or admired her from afar now realized how easily charm could mask cruelty. The contrast between her public persona and the grim reality of her crimes fascinated and terrified the public, sparking debates about obsession, influence, and manipulation. Even as investigations concluded, questions remained. Were there more victims? Had some deaths gone unnoticed? The thought that Meera's lethal games might have extended beyond the known 27 lingered in the minds of investigators and the public alike. Her calm demeanor and calculated actions suggested a mind capable of even greater manipulation, leaving many unsettled about what had truly transpired behind closed doors. In the years that followed, Meera's name became synonymous with danger hidden beneath allure. True crime documentaries, news reports, and social media discussions kept her story alive, ensuring that her deadly influence would not be forgotten. While justice had been served in the courtroom, the shadow of her crimes haunted the elite circles she once frequented, serving as a stark reminder that the world of glamour and fame can sometimes hide a darkness far more sinister than anyone could imagine.